Chapter 3. Destroy the habit of comparison. There is a quiet poison circulating through the modern world. It doesn't shout. It doesn't arrive like an obvious enemy. It slips into your mind through a glance, a scroll, a conversation, a photo, a success story you weren't ready to see. And before you even realize it, your focus shifts, not toward your work, not toward your discipline, not toward your vision, but toward someone else's life. You start measuring, you start calculating, you start asking questions that weaken you. How did they get there? Why are they ahead? What am I missing? Why am I not there yet? And in that moment, something dangerous happens. Your mind stops building and starts comparing. And when your mind compares, your power begins to leak. This is one of the most destructive habits in the psychology of ambition. Comparison weakens focus. Focus builds power. Say it again, because this sentence alone can change the trajectory of your life. Comparison weakens focus. Focus builds power. Most people think comparison is harmless. They think it's motivation. They think it's curiosity. But most of the time, it is none of those things. Most of the time, comparison is a thief. It steals attention. It steals clarity. It steals belief. And belief is the raw material of achievement. When belief weakens, action hesitates. When action hesitates, opportunity passes. And the tragedy is subtle. Because the person doesn't collapse dramatically, they simply slow down. A little more doubt, a little more hesitation, a little more watching, and suddenly they're living in observation mode while others are living in execution mode. That is the trap, and if you want to build an unbreakable self-image, you must destroy the habit of comparison. Not reduce it, not manage it, destroy it, because comparison is incompatible with mastery. It is impossible to build something extraordinary while constantly measuring yourself against other people's timelines. Comparison weakens focus. Focus builds power. Let's examine how this habit begins. It often starts in childhood. You sit in a classroom and the scoreboard appears. Grades, rankings. Who is faster? Who is smarter? Who finishes first? Who struggles? And without realizing it, you begin measuring yourself against the people around you, not against your own growth, against them. Then the habit continues. Sports, social circles, popularity, money, status, success. The measuring never stops, and eventually the mind becomes addicted to the scoreboard of other people's lives. But here is the uncomfortable truth. The scoreboard is fake. You are comparing your internal experience to someone else's external performance. You are comparing your beginning to someone else's middle. You are comparing your struggle to someone else's highlight reel. And that comparison is not information, it is distortion. Comparison weakens focus. Focus builds power. Think about what happens in the mind when comparison takes over. Your brain shifts from creation mode to evaluation mode. Instead of asking, what should I build today? You start asking, how do I measure up? Instead of asking, what is my next step? You start asking, why am I behind? Instead of asking, how can I improve? You start asking, why are they better? The energy that should have fueled action is now consumed by analysis, and analysis without action becomes paralysis. This is the psychological trap of watching others. Watching feels productive. It feels like learning. It feels like preparation. But too often it is procrastination wearing a disguise. People spend hours studying other people's journeys, watching interviews, scrolling profiles, analyzing success stories, and they call it inspiration. But inspiration without implementation is entertainment. You are not building a life when you are watching someone else live theirs. Comparison weakens focus. Focus builds power. Let me tell you a story. Two young entrepreneurs start in the same industry. Both are talented, both are ambitious, both begin with equal opportunity. The first one wakes up every day asking one question: what can I build today? He studies his craft, he improves his systems, he makes mistakes, he learns, he adjusts, he builds momentum. The second entrepreneur wakes up every day with a different question: what are my competitors doing? He tracks them constantly. He watches their posts. He studies their launches. He compares numbers. He measures reactions. He reacts emotionally to every move. And slowly something happens. The first entrepreneur becomes dangerous. The second becomes distracted. The first becomes a creator. The second becomes a spectator. Because comparison weakens focus. Focus builds power. You must understand this principle deeply. Attention is the currency of transformation. Where your attention goes, your life grows. If your attention is scattered across 10 different people's lives, your own life starves. But if your attention is concentrated on your own craft, your growth accelerates. The great builders of history understood this instinctively. They were not obsessed with competition. They were obsessed with construction. They were obsessed with solving problems. They were obsessed with improving their systems. They were obsessed with the next step. They were too busy building to spend their lives measuring. Comparison weakens focus. Focus builds power. But today the world has created a machine designed to amplify comparison: social media. For the first time in human history, you can watch thousands of people's lives in a single day. Their successes, their victories, their possessions, their relationships, their announcements, their milestones. And if you are not careful, your mind will begin to treat their timeline as your measuring stick. And that is psychological sabotage. Because you are not running their race, you are running your own. And races are lost the moment the runner stops looking at the track ahead and starts looking sideways. The moment you look sideways, your rhythm breaks, your breathing changes, your confidence shakes, your focus disappears. And that is exactly what comparison does. Comparison weakens focus. Focus builds power. So the question becomes, how do you break the habit? You break it by changing the scoreboard. Right now, most people are using the wrong scoreboard. They measure themselves against other people's outcomes: money, followers, recognition, speed of success. But those are external metrics. They do not measure growth. They measure exposure. They measure timing. They measure opportunity. They measure context. A powerful self-image requires a different scoreboard. Your only opponent should be yesterday's version of you. That is the only comparison that builds strength. Ask yourself one question at the end of every day. Did I improve? Did I learn something? Did I take action? Did I build momentum? Did I move forward? If the answer is yes, you are winning, even if nobody notices, even if the results are still invisible, because growth compounds, and compounding requires patience. Comparison weakens focus. Focus builds power. Imagine a sculptor working on a statue. Each day he removes a few pieces of stone, small adjustments, tiny refinements. Someone walking by might say, "It doesn't look much different," but the sculptor knows something. The transformation is happening slowly, one careful strike at a time. Now imagine if that sculptor spent every day running across the city to look at other statues, comparing, evaluating, measuring, obsessing. The sculpture would never be finished. That is what comparison does to your life. It pulls you away from your workbench, and the workbench is where transformation happens. You must return to the workbench. Comparison weakens focus. Focus builds power. Now let's talk about something deeper. Comparison is often driven by insecurity. When the self-image is weak, the mind looks outward for validation. Where do I stand? Am I good enough? Am I ahead or behind? But a strong self-image asks a different question. Am I building? Because building creates confidence. Confidence does not come from beating others. Confidence comes from honoring your own standards, from finishing what you start, from keeping your commitments, from improving daily. And the moment you begin to respect your own discipline, the need to compare begins to fade, because your attention returns to what matters, the work, the craft, the mission. Comparison weakens focus. Focus builds power. Here is a practical rule you can apply immediately. Limit your exposure to environments that trigger comparison. Not forever, but until your self-image becomes stronger. Guard your mental environment the way a champion guards their training. If certain content makes you doubt yourself, reduce it. If certain conversations pull you into competition, step away. If certain spaces make you feel smaller instead of stronger, change rooms. You are not obligated to expose your mind to every influence. Your attention is valuable. Treat it like capital. Invest it carefully. Comparison weakens focus. Focus builds power. Now let's shift the conversation toward construction. If comparison weakens you, construction strengthens you. Construction means building something: skills, knowledge, habits, projects, systems, ideas, relationships. When you are actively building, comparison loses its grip, because builders don't have time to watch. Builders are too busy creating. Think about the greatest innovators in history: inventors, scientists, artists, entrepreneurs. They were not sitting in rooms comparing their progress to everyone else. They were immersed in their work. Their focus was so deep that comparison became irrelevant. They were obsessed with improvement, with experimentation, with execution. That is the mindset that you must cultivate. Replace comparison with construction. Replace watching with working. Replace measuring with building. Comparison weakens focus. Focus builds power. Now I want you to adopt a new daily practice. Every morning, ask yourself 3 questions. What will I build today? What will I improve today? What will I learn today? These questions pull your attention back to your own path. They pull your energy back to your own progress. And when your attention stays on your own work, momentum returns. Momentum builds belief. Belief strengthens identity. Identity drives behavior. Behavior shapes results. And suddenly your life begins moving again. Comparison weakens focus. Focus builds power. There will still be moments when comparison tries to sneak back in. You will see someone succeed faster. You will see someone achieve something impressive. You will feel the temptation to measure. When that moment arrives, remember this principle: someone else's success does not reduce your potential. Success is not a limited resource. Opportunity is not a fixed pie. The world is not running out of space for builders, but it is running out of patience for spectators. And the moment you stop spectating and start building, the game changes. Your self-image strengthens, your discipline sharpens, your focus intensifies, and life begins responding to your effort. Comparison weakens focus. Focus builds power. Now let's bring this chapter back to the central theme of the audiobook. You are building an unbreakable self-image. An identity so strong that external noise cannot shake it. An identity grounded in discipline, not approval. An identity grounded in construction, not comparison. And that identity cannot exist while you are constantly measuring yourself against others. It must be rooted in internal standards, in daily improvement, in relentless forward motion. You are not here to outrun someone else. You are here to outgrow your former self. That is the real race. And when you focus on growth instead of comparison, something powerful happens. Confidence becomes natural. Momentum becomes visible. Progress becomes undeniable. Because comparison weakens focus. Focus builds power. And power is exactly what you need for the next stage of this journey. You have stopped accepting the identity you were given. You have destroyed the habit of comparison. Now the question becomes, what voice will guide your identity moving forward? Because every day, every hour, there is a voice speaking inside your mind. A voice that can either weaken you or strengthen you. A voice that can either sabotage your discipline or reinforce it. That voice is the most powerful influence in your life, and if you do not learn to control it, it will control you. So now we move to the next transformation. Make sure to follow this channel for the 4th chapter. If it's already published, you can find it in the description of this audio. The title of the next chapter is Speak to Yourself Like a Leader.